Hey, horror sci-fi fans, Drew here from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond, and we're back with Mr. Jackson Harper. How you doing, man?
Howdy, y'all.
Thanks for being on the Guillermo del Toro video. I know you said you wanted to do this for a couple of months now.
Oh, I love Guillermo del Toro, so I'm always happy to talk about him.
Yeah, thank you for suggesting this because I haven't watched a whole lot of del Toro movies. Before.
I know, I was surprised that you hadn't really watched his movies before.
Yeah, before this, I watched Pacific Rim, Shape of Water, and Nightmare Alley. Those are the only things I watched.
Okay.
Yeah, and aren't necessarily like his most iconic movies, but
yeah.
Per se,
well, I mean, Shape of Water, that's a big one. I mean, that won Oscars and stuff.
Right,
so.
but it's not like a timeless classic like a Pan's Labyrinth.
Well, we haven't had enough years for it, yeah.
So the movie that we're going to be talking about is Cronos, Hellboy 1 and 2, and then Pan's Labyrinth, and then Crimson Peak.
Yeah.
Basically ones I have not seen before.
Yeah, which, like, you wanted to do Mimic, and I was like, no.
Yeah, well, I didn't know.
We got to throw that out. We got to do Hellboy.
Yeah.
Hellboy is way more important
really,
as a Del Toro.
Yeah, well, I originally just wanted to do the first Hellboy, just so we didn't make the video so long. But after I watched that, I'm like, okay, we got to do Hellboy 2.
Yeah, and Hellboy 2 is even better. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, but before we do that, let's talk about some horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and superhero media that we've been consuming since the last time we talked to each other. So what are some stuff you've been watching over
the most important thing I got to talk about is the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, I heard about that.
It is so good. Like it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. It's not only one of the best like action movies or one of the best sci-fi movies, but it's one of the best comedies and one of the best dramas that you'll see. Like it just does everything, and it does it all so well, which is fitting given the nature of the movie, because it's about a woman who can access all of her abilities from all other alternate versions of herself.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And so it's a lot of different movies all at once, and it's all of them are good. So I loved it so much.
Yeah, I saw the trailer. I didn't buy into it. It looked a little bit too out there for me, but I'll definitely check it out because I do love some Jamie Lee Curtis and some Marcella.
Yeah, and she's great in the movie, and it is really far out there, but I think that the story it's telling is sort of deep and emotional enough that it, like, the other stuff just makes it more enjoyable. Like, because it's so funny, you're gonna laugh so much because there's just so much absurd stuff going on in the movie. I mean, there's a whole universe where they all have hot dogs for fingers.
What?
You know? That's a whole universe of the movie. And by the end of the movie, you also take that universe seriously.
Right.
As silly as it is. I don't know. It was such a good movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, what'd you
multiverse movie coming up in about a month.
Yes, true.
Which I'm really excited for because that's gonna be on my birthday week, and my grandma knows I love all the Marvel movies, or a lot of the Marvel movies, and I begged her to buy tickets. Yeah, a few things I've been kind of watching. I watched Edward Scissorhands.
Okay.
On Disney Plus.
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah, well, I forgot it was Fox, and Disney owns that now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm like, this is a really good movie. Not my favorite Tim Burton movie. That would be probably Batman Returns for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Batman.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really like that movie. I like the mix between like the kind of German expressionistic gothic
Mhm.
stylings, and then you have like the 1950s kind of suburban Leave It to Beaver, I Love Lucy kind of part of it too.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then it was one of
Mhm.
Vincent Price's last roles that he ever
Yeah,
did.
that's true.
Yeah. And every time I watch Vincent Price, I cannot help but to repeat what he says on screen because I just love his voice. And the way he emphasizes like certain things. He's like,
Mhm.
hello, my name is Vincent Price, and I'm back from the dead. I just love that. Like any normal person would just say back from the dead, but he just says back from the dead. It's Vincent Price.
Well, okay, this seems like a good opportunity to try to like do my Tom Waits thing.
Okay.
Because how would Tom Waits say I'm back from the dead? So
Okay.
here we go. I'm back from the dead.
Other two movies I watched. I watched a little bit of The Funhouse by Toby Hooper.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's been a while, but I remember that one being really
It
good.
was on Sutter. I wasn't a huge fan.
Okay, well, I need to go on there and watch it then.
Yeah. I like the look of the movie.
Mhm.
But at the time they get into the funhouse part of it, or that little layer with this Frankenstein monster, and the guy's like abusing him or whatever, I'm like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing I did like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I love the beginning when they made when they kind of did a parody of like Halloween and like Psycho. So I thought it was hilarious.
Uh-huh.
Like two movies
Yeah.
starring like a mother and daughter. Like you have Janet Leigh in Psycho,
Uh-huh.
and Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. Like that just had to be done on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, when they cast Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, they really wanted
Yeah.
her for Reagan in Exorcist. Like they even asked
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And her
yeah,
mom was like, no,
nope,
absolutely not.
you will not be doing that with a cross. Yeah. Other than that, there's another documentary series on there on Sutter that I really like called Behind the Monster. Where
Okay.
they take like different like horror iconic villains and they kind of talk about them.
Okay.
So this for the first set of episodes, is Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, Chucky, Candyman, and Pinhead. And I watched
Okay.
all of them except for the Pinhead one because I never seen the Hellraiser and I probably never will.
I mean, the first two Hellraiser movies are good.
Let's cut to the chase. I talk about from Guillermo
Yeah.
del Toro, the
Here we
director of
go.
the sounding name.
Yes. I believe it translates in Spanish to something like William of the Bull or something like
Ooh.
that.
Which is funny because he's not a bull sitting around with his movies.
I mean, he does a little bit, and that's fine. That's why we love him.
So anyways, how do you find out about Mr. Del Toro?
I think I remember when Mimic came out because I was probably in high school or junior high when it came out, but I didn't see it at the time. I might have seen it on video like a couple years later. And then I saw Blade 2 in theaters randomly.
I keep forgetting.
He did that one, and people forget about it. And ultimately, like, it's a cool movie. It's maybe not the most essential movie, but it was the first thing I saw of his, and I didn't like know who he was or anything like that. It wasn't until, and then I saw Hellboy, and I don't think I made the same connection that it was. I don't think I made the connection that it was the same guy that did both of those. And then when I saw Pan's Labyrinth in 2006, when it came out in theaters, that's when I started to really take notice of his name. It's like, oh, this guy, okay, I've seen his movies before. He's one to watch. And Pan's Labyrinth ended up being it's tied for my number one movie of all time with two other movies. Three-way tie between Pan's Labyrinth, A Hard Day's Night, the Beatles movie, and Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ.
How I discovered Del Toro was, I remember back in 2004, 2005, whenever the first Hellboy was coming out. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then I remember the second one came out. I'm like, oh, they made a second one? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then And then we used to live in San Diego. And at the middle school I went to, I played flag football, and the
Uh-huh.
coach was the big Del Toro fan. And remember, he was telling me about Pan's Labyrinth. He was telling me about specifically the Perlman, and it freaked me out when I was like at that time. And
It's
that's actually,
terrifying.
yeah, like, I could not go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I kept thinking about the Perlman, and
Hmm.
not to take away from the makeup design and Doug Jones' performance in the actual movie, but like what my imagination could have thought up was 1,000 times scarier than what I actually saw in the movie. And then I remember like my aunt bought me a book with like the 100 greatest movies, and Pan's Labyrinth was in there. And I remember
Yeah.
that movie was in there. I'm like, oh, that's the movie that my football coach was telling me about.
Yeah, it was the movie that turned me around on foreign movies, I think,
Mm,
because, I think I'd seen a couple of foreign films before that. I'd seen like Seven Samurai and stuff,
mm,
but I wasn't
yeah.
really interested in movies from other countries. And then I saw Pan's Labyrinth, and it just captivated me so
Oh,
much. I
yeah.
was just like, what else is out there? It opened up a whole world of cinema for me in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and even then, I was still like only like I was 23, I think, when it
Mm,
came out. So
right.
I was already kind of an adult, but
Yeah, I love Pan's Labyrinth. I thought it was
hmm
a beautiful movie.
so beautiful.
Yeah, and since you're the Del Toro kind of expert, I think it'd be pretty fun if you kind of gave us like the history as we go along, or like where's
Okay, I'll do as best I can.
yeah, just right off the top of your head.
Yep.
If you had like any like little tidbits you want to give out.
Well, there's definitely some tidbits and some recurring themes in his movies and stuff like that. Yeah, that we'll touch on.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I guess, I think this is his first movie, like movie. Um
Yeah, yeah.
Kronos.
Hmm.
So what do you think about Kronos?
It had been a while since I had watched it, and I remember liking it, but I had forgotten how much of a Del Toro movie it already is. Like,
Mhm.
his style is very firmly established right away.
Right.
Just the way he decorates his sets, everything's kind of cluttered
Mm,
and everything seems a little bit off kilter.
right. And I even like the
And
beginning, like the
yeah,
origin story, like
uh huh,
with the alchemist, and then like the
uh
Spanish
huh.
Inquisition. It felt very Evil Dead-esque.
Yeah, because like you see inside of the scarab device, you
Mm,
see the bug in there, like
right.
breathing and stuff like that. It's such an odd camera choice to be like, let's show you the inside of this machine, but we
Mm,
built a full like set and a puppet just to show you this little bug inside of a
right.
bracelet. Like, so he's already got all this style to him, and the way he moves the camera is
Mm,
already established.
right.
And Ron Perlman, you have Ron Perlman right away
Mm.
as one of his favorite actors.
Right. The one thing I
So
liked about this movie was this is technically a secret vampire movie.
yeah, it is.
And apparently
It
that's the
never
thing.
says vampire or anything, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing about that is like apparently that's a thing now, or not now,
Mm,
but I mean because like I mean the most obvious example is like From Dusk Till Dawn, like never advertised it as a vampire movie, didn't even hint that was a vampire movie until like
See, that's not my memory of from when From Dusk Till Dawn came out. I remember seeing vampires in commercials for it.
yeah, that was probably like TV.
And then people just forgot that there were supposed to be vampires in it. But when I saw the movie the first time, I knew that there were going to be vampires. I was just waiting for them to show up. So I
Really?
never had this experience. Yeah, I never had the experience of like being surprised by that movie.
Yeah,
Sorry. But
maybe
I've
trailers
watched
you
it with
saw.
other people who didn't know, and it's fun to watch people's reactions when the
Mhm.
vampires show up.
Right. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good example. Like I said, Kronos. Even
Hmm.
recently last year, we had Midnight Mass, which like completely
See, I
saw.
haven't watched that.
Oh, did I
So
ruin it for you? I'm sorry.
I think I already knew there were vampires in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I'm never surprised when vampires show up anymore.
Yeah, if you ever get around to watching that, after you watch it, listen to the Fear of God episode of that.
I know. I need to watch it for that reason, but
But I like the whole like kind of backstory of like the Cronos device because it's basically you have this alchemist who invents this device that gives
mhm,
you prolonged life, and then
yeah.
centuries or years later or decades later, an Asian antique store owner finds the device,
Mhm,
in his store, and he uses it and he becomes immortal. And then that's when it starts to sort of become a vampire movie.
yeah.
Because Del Toro kind of hints at the vampire myth. The old man blocked out sunlight, with his hand kind of like this. And
Mhm,
then he always had like this thirst of blood and like diseases.
mhm,
And like I said, what you said, they never actually say vampire, but I think
yeah.
at that point we knew vampires enough that we knew, oh, this is how it's supposed to go.
Yeah, it's almost like if he continues to live and live and live, like he'll become more of a traditional
Mm,
vampire.
right.
But
Maybe.
it starts with him just like he sees a drop of blood on the floor and has to get down and lick it up.
Right.
It's very creepy stuff.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, that was an interesting scene right there.
Yeah. Because it's a bathroom floor. It's like, oh, this is the
Exactly.
grossest floor.
Oh,
Even though it's a very clean bathroom,
right.
still.
And I guess this is technically a Christmas movie as well. Christmas, New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it takes place at Christmas time. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have Ron Perlman as in the early pre-Hellboy world, which was
Mhm.
really cool.
I don't know. I think he had done like that Beauty and the Beast TV show or something like that.
With Sarah Connor.
Yeah, but wasn't known for much else. And uh, I don't know. This weird Mexican filmmaker saw something in him, and it turned into a beautiful partnership that's lasted decades at this
Yeah,
point.
I think his two favorite actors is Doug Jones and Ron Perlman.
Yeah, and we'll get to Doug Jones in a little bit.
Oh yeah, I love Doug Jones.
You can't talk about Del Toro without talking about Doug
Oh
Jones.
yeah, yeah. It's like talking about Scorsese, you want to talk about De Niro.
Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure.
And then in that whole thing, where he's like the nephew to like a billionaire. He wants the Cronos device because this billionaire is kind of dying.
Yeah.
One interesting thing I want to note is I don't know if you ever seen a Tony Scott movie with David Bowie called The Hunger, but this movie
I
reminded me of The Hunger,
have. Yeah. Sure. I get that.
especially like when they're in that factory with Ron Perlman and his uncle, like that.
Mhm.
And you have like the kind of like the blue kind of color tint in that environment.
Yeah, and these very stark lights and
Yeah.
shadows everywhere. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
One thing I did like was when Perlman beats up the old man in the parking lot or like on that cliff or
Mhm.
whatever. And then like he's a little, and of course he's younger. He didn't look at the Ron Perlman Let Me Know the Day. And like
Yeah.
from like Son of Anarchy and like Hellboy, even though he's in makeup. But like he
Mhm.
did that like that iconic Ron Perlman smile.
Yeah, nobody smiles like him, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's very devilish.
Yeah, there's a reason he played Hellboy,
Yeah.
he was the only guy.
Love the relationship between the shop owner and then his granddaughter, Aurora.
Yes, that's
Um,
very lovely.
yeah, that was so beautiful. And then I love the
Mhm.
whole story about he tells about his father and the cigarettes, how he used to like throw his father's cigarettes in the toilet because
Mhm.
he cared about his health. I thought that was so beautiful.
Mm.
Because the granddaughter was trying to protect her grandpa.
Yeah.
I thought that whole and I thought that was a very Del Toro moment, which I really like.
Yeah, that whole idea because, the grandpa, his character arc in the movie is he's becoming this sort of monster type.
Right.
And that's who Del Toro loves the most. He loves monsters, or
Mm,
at least the sort of misfits and the outcasts and the weirdos. Like that's who he loves.
Right.
And that's what he makes his movies about. And I love that about him. Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if you can relate to this necessarily, but and in school, like I definitely felt like an outcast for sure. And that's why
Mhm.
I related to, the Universal monsters, especially,
Mhm.
Frankenstein and the Wolfman and Phantom of
Mhm.
the Opera.
Yeah.
So guys, here's my quick letterbox review for Cronos. An interesting take on the vampire subgenre that didn't make it explicitly obvious that is a vampire movie. And I gave it a
Mhm.
3.5 stars out of 5.
That's about how I'd rate it too. Yeah.
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 So next movie, Hellboy. What do you think about Hellboy in general? It's a
It was
general
a
concept of
movie. Oh, as just the general
it. Yeah.
concept, I there's nothing I don't love about it. Like it's about the monster who's the hero, and it's got like steampunk things going on in it. And it's got,
Hmm.
it's got all kinds of creatures, and of course the second one has even more creatures. Like when I was a kid, I used to draw all the time, and one of my favorite things to draw was monsters.
Right.
And so I love that we have these two movies that just are all about monsters. I love that kind of stuff. It's so
Oh yeah.
much fun to me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love the concept of this movie. I think it's really interesting. I mean, it's basically the Nazis teams up with Rasputin, like actual well, not the actor Rasputin, but he's the guy playing him.
Yeah.
And they use black magic to conjure up forces from hell. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and they actually didn't summon a demon, and they're just scientists that worked with the Americans to raise the demon to become a defender against evil named
Yeah,
Hellboy.
because he's a cute little baby demon,
Yeah, yeah,
with
it was
with a
weird to
big
see that.
rock fist.
And it was weird, but like in the cool way.
Yeah.
Yeah, to see because I know how Hellboy is, but to see him as like a little baby demon was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and then he just grows up to be, he's kind of just a regular guy. Like he likes to eat candy bars and he likes to play with cats,
Right? And you like
you
to watch
know?
Marx Brothers movies or like old.
Yeah, watch TV, like old sitcoms and stuff like that.
Yeah, doesn't don't they show one of the like the early Frankenstein movies, like the Universal ones, one of these?
I'm sure they do. I mean, Del Toro loves those movies
Oh yeah.
so much. I mean, he's made several homages to them, Shape of Water being one. I remember watching Hellboy in college, and my friend that I was watching it with pointed something out. Is like, Hellboy is this guy that hates what he does, like because his job is to hunt down monsters that pose a threat to humanity and kill them. And he hates doing that. But it's not like a tortured, like dark kind of hate. He just hates it like everybody hates their job.
Right.
Oh, I gotta do that. And he just
Yeah,
wants to
I can
sit at home
remember
and play
that.
with his cats and watch TV, which is what we all want to do. So
I love the cat part. I thought that was so.
yeah.
It's such an awesome like juxtaposition
Yeah.
character, and I'm a cat guy too. So Ron Perlman is awesome as Hellboy. He's just a smart ass.
Uh-huh.
He's like the Thing, from the Fantastic
Uh-huh.
Four. Like
Very much, yeah.
he didn't like who he is, but he kind of accepts it, and he's kind of like a smart ass, but he has a heart.
Yeah.
And even like Michael Chiklis, who played the Thing in that in the first Fantastic Four movie for the video game, when he was doing the voiceover work for the video game, he even described the Thing as like a rock hard He-Man with a heart, and that's Hellboy essentially.
Yeah.
Love Hellboy's relationship with Liz. I thought that whole scene on the rooftop was like so funny. And that little boy like comes up to him, who obviously he already knows Hellboy. And then he kind of like pep talks him. Because like Liz is like is going out on a date with that other guy that's brought in to that organization.
Agent John something, that it doesn't matter because his character is just an entry point.
Did he look a little bit like Bill Skarsgård a little bit?
I don't even remember his face. Like he's not a memorable character.
I mean, compared to like Hellboy and like Ape Sapien, was Ape Sapien probably my favorite character other than Hellboy.
Sure. So let's get into a little bit of trivial bits about Doug Jones, because this is the movie where Doug Jones really gets established as one of Del Toro's guys. because he was in Mimic,
Okay.
and they had met on that set, but Doug Jones was just like a guy that they had brought in, like,
Mm.
and he was one of the creature actors.
Right, and he
And
was
then
also in
years,
Hocus Pocus as Billy Berserson.
yeah, and he was on Buffy the Vampire
Oh,
Slayer. He
really? I
was
didn't
in
know that.
he was in the episode Hush. He's the leader of the gentlemen in that episode. He was on like a big McDonald's ad campaign as a character named Mac Tonight.
Oh, really? That was
The
him.
guy with the moon head,
Yeah, I
that's
remember
Doug
that.
Jones. He was that guy. And so he'd been around for a while. And then when they were making Hellboy, when they were in pre-production, they made a model of Abe Sapien
Mm.
to show to Del Toro as like a concept piece. And one of the model artists said, "You know who this looks like is Doug Jones." And Del Toro remembered Doug Jones from working on Mimic and had been carrying around Doug Jones's business card for years in his wallet. So he called him up and like essentially gave him the job to be Abe Sapien.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then the studio brought in David Hyde Pierce to redub Abe Sapien's voice in the first movie.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and apparently when he got in the recording booth to redub the voice, he heard Doug Jones's original performance and asked the recording engineers, "What am I doing here?"
Yeah.
Because it was like, this is pointless to bring me in. This guy is already giving a good performance, which he got to fully give in the second Hellboy. You know, that's his voice, that one. But it's in the first one, it's not.
Oh, so it's completely the other guy that's doing the voice?
Yeah, in the first one, David Pierce redubbed all of Abe Sapien's dialogue.
Interesting.
But when you get to the second one, Doug Jones's voice is great, and you wonder, like, you barely notice that it's a different voice in the second movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, apparently Seth MacFarlane in the second one did the voice of Johan.
Yeah, Johan, the steam guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, and then I love the message at the end of this movie. You have the new guy basically says, "What makes a man? Is it his origins? Is it the way he comes to life? It's the choices he makes, not how he starts things, but how he decides to end them."
You know, yeah, his horns grow back and he has the opportunity to take over the world, basically. And he just reaches up and breaks off his horns. And he's like, "No, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep protecting humanity."
Right. Yeah, and I like
from
that
the darkness. Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde thing, because I think we all like that. We all have the ability to do good things and the ability to do bad things. Okay, here's my letterbox review for the first Hellboy. A fun and unique comic book movie with a reluctant but likable hero in Ronald Perlman as the title character. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
Yep, that's about where I'd rate it too. 3.5, 4. Yeah.
So Pan's Labyrinth, do you have any behind the scenes tidbit about this movie real quick?
Well, of course, we've got the return of Doug Jones. In this case, he's playing like multiple characters. He plays the Pale Man, he plays the Fawn. I think he plays another, I can't remember. No, maybe it's just the Pale Man and the Fawn.
So did he actually speak Spanish? Like, is that his voice in the actual movie?
That's not his voice. His voice was redubbed, but he did have to learn like at least phonetic Spanish to say his lines on set.
Oh, so the actress can...
And then again, his voice is redubbed. Yeah. And eventually they stop redubbing his voice in movies. But yeah, so this one was one I saw in the theater. And like I said, this is the first time I ever took note of Guillermo del Toro as like someone to reckon with,
right?
Because this movie, it's almost hard to talk about. I love it so much, and I love it on such a deep level. It's interesting. It's a movie about a lot of things. I mean, it's about war and it's about rebellion, and also like a fairy story, like an old timey kind of fairy story where the fairies are dangerous a little bit,
Well, and
you
that's
know?
what I like about Del Toro is like I think we get it twisted with fairy tales, thinking,
Hmm.
oh, they're like for kids and they're all white and fluffy, because of like stuff like
Yeah.
Disney. But like if you go back to like the Grimm's fairy tales and like the original Hans Christian Andersen Little Mermaid, like these
Hmm.
stories are kind of fucked up.
Yeah, they're weird. Well,
Yeah,
like even old like myths, and that's something that I think Del Toro is very steeped in. You see that throughout his career. He's very interested in like folklore and mythology and kind of old forms of storytelling and revamping those and bringing them into like modern cinema.
right.
And so and he's also somebody who's very notorious as a notebook guy. He
Hmm.
has all these notebooks for all of his movies. And I think some of them have been published. Like, I think you can buy his notebook for Pan's Labyrinth that
Hmm.
has all his handwritten notes on the story and the characters and all his drawings because he designs a lot of these monsters himself.
Right.
The fawn and the pale man and the frog, those are all like based on drawings he made in his notebook.
Wow. And this is a completely
Yeah,
original idea from him, right?
yeah, it's his own story. I think he co-wrote it with somebody, but I can't remember their name.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a completely original project from him.
Yeah. I love this movie. I thought it was just
Hmm.
so beautiful. It also kind of felt like Alice in Wonderland meets Wizard of Oz meets The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, it's part of that tradition. Like, yeah.
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland, it felt like it because it's a little girl who visits a fantasy world.
Hmm.
Oz, because the this military captain actually represents the Pale Man, like the old crafty old lady in Wizard of Oz represents the Wicked Witch.
Sure.
Yeah, and then Little Mermaid because the main character lived in this kind of fantasy fairy tale world, but wanted to be with the humans.
Hmm.
So there's that kind of aspect to it. And then it also kind of felt like Schindler's List a little bit. It almost kind of felt like a completely different movie.
Yeah, it's got very, very like serious war
Mm.
scenes and like people get captured and beaten to death in graphic, gruesome ways. Yeah,
Mm.
there's some really intense, like heavy adult stuff in this movie.
Right, and that's what I liked about this movie was like it
Hmm.
was like the word stuff was very graphic, or it
Hmm.
was very hard to watch, but it wasn't like over the top.
No, I
It
think
was like disturbing where it needed to be.
the scene where the guy gets the bottle beaten into his face, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't
But
remember.
thankfully, it doesn't linger on that. It just gives you like a brief shot of it, and you
Mm,
don't see it anymore. But it's still really, really brutal.
yeah, I think I turned away because I don't like the
Yeah,
torture scenes. And then I love the kind of Spanish Civil War kind of ties to it because it showed like light and darkness. Could you have like
yeah.
one of the servants in this new house, um, kind of like standing up to this captain character?
Hmm.
What I thought was pretty cool. And she says something about like gunning a pig, like when she kills him.
Yeah, she's really something. That's a great character.
Oh
I
yeah,
love her.
yeah. I mean, I love the Fawn Pan character. I think that what his name is. The guy with the horn.
Pan. Well, I think Pan is something that they used for like the English title because he's not really referred to that. He's just referred to as the fawn.
Okay.
But Pan is like a Greek, mythology reference, I believe. Greek or Roman. I think it's Greek.
Yeah. Do you know if they have Pan's Labyrinth Funko Pops available?
I don't know. I don't follow that sort of
Uh,
collecting world. So
yeah, I'm a huge Funko Pop fan.
yeah,
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be a cool one to get to have.
for sure. I mean, I'm sure they have like Hellboy ones.
Yeah. It also reminded me, I don't know if you ever read this book or seen this movie, but Boy in the Striped Pajamas. a little bit?
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it or read it. No.
Yeah, because that's about a little kid whose father's in the Nazi party and they move to like the
Okay.
country. And it had like a war aspect to it.
Hmm.
It's not a fairy tale. It's like very much like a straight drama.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, but yeah, if you've never seen that movie or read that book, like it's really good. It's one of my favorite books. But anyways, let's get to the letterbox review for Pan's Labyrinth. As cliche as it is, Pan's Labyrinth is Del Toro's best and timeless film because it reflects our modern times.
okay.
Yeah, and that's one. And that's the thing I like about directors is like I like to look at themes in his
Hmm.
in their movies. And I think
Hmm.
one theme that he likes to explore is kindness and acceptance.
Yes, that's definitely in a lot of his movies. And he does that by exploring the opposite in a lot of ways. Like he's
Mm,
really interested in like human cruelty.
right,
And his villains are the most cruel people,
right. And
you know?
yeah, we kind of need to see that because that's how the
Hmm.
world is.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of meant how it reflect our modern times because like I don't want to get too deep into things,
sure.
but the world's kind of crazy right now. So we kind of
Yes.
need stuff like a Pan's Labyrinth or like kind of fancy movies to get us away from that for a while. And this is
Hmm.
why Hellboy 2 had a big effect on me.
Yes.
Yeah, because I guess we can move on to that because right before I watched it, I was eating dinner right after when I got home from work, and I was reading some stuff online, and people would be really crappy. And I'm like, you know what? I need to get away from the internet. I'm gonna watch Hellboy 2 for this video.
Uh-huh.
It made me feel a lot better.
Yeah. It definitely is one of those movies because it's about the misfits like trying to like come together and work together for the benefit of everyone.
Hmm.
But it's also about like the misfits who maybe have felt slighted and don't feel like they're necessarily a part of the world anymore, so they lash out.
Right.
That's what you have the prince character, but then his sister is much more sort of compassionate than he
Hmm.
is.
Oh yeah, I love that whole
Like one of my favorite Del Toro villains in this one. I think he's very complex
Hmm.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. I didn't really notice that. I mean, of course, it's my first time watching it, so
Hmm.
I have to check that out again. But I love the whole thing with like the princess and the escaping. I thought that was really beautiful.
Yes, it's
Yeah, and then of
nice.
course you had like the whole Barry Manilow scene, and
Oh, where
I could not get that song out of my head. Like I kept singing that for like the last couple of weeks.
oh god,
I cannot
Barry Manilow.
smile without you. Can't smile without you. I mean,
Yeah.
Barry Manilow has a special place in my heart. I'm not a huge fan of him, but my mom loves Barry Manilow.
I think my mom kind of does too.
I mean, every mom does.
I
It's kind of
yeah,
a,
it's
it's
a
kind of a
mom.
mom
It's a
kind of guy.
mom artist. Yeah.
I mean, I like him. He's fine.
I can't get into him. When I think of this is you'll probably cut this out too, but when I think of Barry Manilow, I always think of this Ray Stevens song called "I Need Your Help, Barry Manilow" or something like that.
Never heard of it.
Oh, it's about how everything's going wrong in his life and he just needs Barry Manilow to sing to him. But he does it in the style of a Barry Manilow song, so it's
That's
funny.
hilarious. I'm gonna look that
Yeah.
up. This movie's more
Yes.
dynamic than the first one because it had better
Uh-huh.
creatures, a lot more creatures.
Yes.
Because the first
I
one,
mean, the troll market is like it's like a Star Wars movie. There's so many creatures just walking around in the background, and you don't even get to like engage with them, but they're there and they're all amazing.
it felt very Men in Black. Like I love.
Yes, Men in Black is another good comparison. Yeah.
I love these movies like the Cantina scene in Star Wars or like several
Uh-huh.
Men in Black where it's just like it's just like a hodgepodge of
Yeah,
creatures.
it's one of my favorite
Yeah, it's
things.
like an
too,
orgy of like creatures,
yeah.
which is awesome.
Ooh.
And I just love those kind of scenes where it's just a bunch of creatures. Like
Uh-huh.
Total Recall has a scene like that, has scenes like that.
Yeah.
I just love that because it's like, how the hell do people come up with this stuff? It is crazy.
Well, and that's another thing about this movie is that it's such a departure from the first Hellboy movie, because the first Hellboy movie is very sort of pulpy. You know, it's got Nazis. It's got like a guy that's like made out of sand or something, and he's in a steampunk suit. But then this movie, you've got like all these like elementals and demons and all kinds of different creatures. You know, you've got the troll outside the market where it's the old lady with the glamour, and they have to use special glasses.
Yeah, I don't
she's
remember.
Scared of canaries. Like, so many weird little things.
Yeah. And again, I don't remember all of it. It was just so much coming at me.
There's so much. There's so much. And then you've got like the Angel of Death at the end, you know, which is also Doug Jones.
I don't remember that either.
The big creature with the wings, with the eyes on the wings.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to watch it. I remember that now.
Who's like the guardian of the Golden Army or something like that. They have to.
I was just taking all this in. Like, I was just
there's so much in the movie. Then that's why I love it so much, because it's just like he made enough money on the first movie or whatever that the studio just was like, okay, for this next movie, go for it, go nuts.
Right.
And he went nuts.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing about this movie. Like it does what I think CGI needs to do. It does what like Spielberg and his team did with Jurassic Park. I could not tell for the life of me what was the CGI effect and what was practical. Like prosthetics.
Yeah, because he uses a lot of practical. Like a lot of those are costumes and makeup and stuff, and he uses puppets and things. I mean, that's part of what makes him so great, is because he knows how to mix all the different things together. Yeah.
Another thing, like, I don't know if I would put this movie necessarily in my top 5. Like I know I wouldn't put it in my top 5 comic movies, but definitely my top 10 for sure.
I'd put it real far up. It's definitely in my top 5, up there with like The Dark Knight and Avengers Endgame. Like Hellboy 2 is in that short list.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love the relationship between Hellboy and Liz. I loved how they revealed the whole pregnancy thing. I thought that was
cool. Where Abe finds out first. Yeah.
Oh, the Two-Beer scene. That was really interesting. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was kind of dark. How like they just like
super,
and, like they were just
super
like
creepy. Well, I was thinking while I was watching it, which seemed worse to you, being like overtaken and devoured by one big creature like a bear, like in like that Leo movie where he gets attacked by the bear, or being overtaken and devoured by like a bunch of little creatures? I think the second one's, I think that's worse.
And then I love the whole thing at the end where they when they're walking away from that big stone monster, and then Hellboy's like, "Hey, this is gonna be great. We're gonna have a big backyard for the baby." And then Liz goes, "Babies," and he's like, "What?" And then
she's just like,
I love the locker room scene. You know, when him and Ron fight each other.
Well, just he slams him with all the lockers, and then he just like walks away. He's like, he just
and that's like very like classic like Marx Brothers, like
very silly,
very like slapstick, like Three Stooges, and that
Three Stooges for sure.
Yeah, and that leads into the Barry Manilow scene with what's your favorite part of the movie? I mean, that's probably my favorite part of the whole movie. Like,
it might be my favorite part just because of how nice it is that like Hellboy and Abe Sapien, these two monsters, are just sitting there and like getting drunk and talking about their problems and singing Barry Manilow. It's nice.
Well, I know it was cool because like Abe Sapien's in love with his
Princess Nuala.
With his elf princess. And then like Hellboy's having like relationship problems with Liz.
But
he knows that they still need each other. So the whole
exactly.
I can't smile without you. Work for
the
because Ape Sapien, is in like a fantasy, lovey-dovey land because of the princess, and then like Hellboy is kind of scared that he might have to like cut the ties with Liz.
And then we never got the third movie.
Yeah, which sucks. Yeah,
we got the really bad Hellboy movie that I fell asleep during and never finished because it was so bad. And he was a good choice to play Hellboy, but like that movie, the script was just bad. What I saw of it, at least.
Yeah, whoever the director of that movie basically saw like Stranger Things. And he's like, "Oh, Chief Harper would be a good Hellboy."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think it was the fact that it was like just a CGI heavy movie, and I didn't see it.
I just saw like probably the first 30-40 minutes of it, and then I fell asleep and I never bothered to finish it because it wasn't worth it.
It didn't had the heart of the original.
And even as recently as like a year or two ago, Del Toro has talked about making another one with Perlman, but Perlman's getting old. Yeah. He's in his mid-70s now or something like that.
And that's the thing about it is like Selma Blair and Braun Perlman, like there's a big age difference there.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because he's under all that makeup, and it doesn't matter how old he's an ancient demonic being anyway,
Right. I love their chemistry. I really felt that.
Yeah, they're very good together.
So the Letterboxd review for Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, here I wrote, with weirder creatures and wittier dialogue, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army is like if Del Toro directed a Men in Black movie. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it's just so gosh darn awesome.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 4.5 or a 5. It's just, I love it.
Yeah.
It's my second favorite Del Toro movie after Pan's Labyrinth.
Anyways, Crimson Peak.
Okay, it's one that I had not revisited since it came out in the theater. This is the first time I've rewatched it. And I think it's not my favorite because I think I said this last time I was on the show. I'm not into like ghost haunted house kind of stuff. But I enjoy it when Del Toro does it because he's not going to do it like everybody else does it.
Right.
And his spin on the ghost story is interesting to me. I mean, this is a movie where the ghost is not the menacing presence. The ghost is trying to help. The problem is the ghost looks scary.
Right. And this is the closest thing we got to that Del Toro movie, Haunted Mansion movie that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because you wanted to make it like really dark, but of course it's Disney.
Yeah.
Really go that.
Disney.
Yeah. I mean,
Disney. I live in Orlando. I live with Disney every day.
I just like the cinematography and the production design. I thought it looked really
beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing with Del Toro. Even if the movie sucked, you're gonna have a beautiful looking movie.
There's several movies we didn't talk about in here. Like we didn't talk about Pacific Rim at all. That's a movie that I don't think is a great movie, but it looks awesome.
Yeah, it was actually like the good Transformers movie.
Yeah, I mean it's better than those for sure, but it's still just like it's
better than all of them.
As big and as bombastic as it is, it's a minor Del Toro movie. Even though scale wise, it's probably his biggest movie. So that's what you're getting with this guy. But of course, then right after that is when he did Crimson Peak, and he dialed it back down to this more sort of intimate story.
Yeah. Did Del Toro have kids at all?
I don't know much about his personal life. I don't pay attention to stuff like that.
Yeah, because I was thinking maybe he did Pacific Rim for like his kids.
I could see that as a possibility. I mean, it's just him getting to make a movie about robots versus monsters. So who doesn't want to see robots versus monsters? He's like, I've got a chance to do this. Why not? Right.
But I thought what was interesting, I know we keep getting away from Crimson Peak, but I want to say one more thing.
It's fine.
With like Pan's Labyrinth, he was delving into like old Gothic fairy tales. I think with Hellboy, he was kind of delving into like the universal monsters. I think with Pacific Rim, he was really delving into like kaiju movies, like Godzilla and like Mothra.
Sure. And then Crimson Peak, he's doing a Hammer horror movie.
Oh yeah, Sense It Away.
and then Shape of Water, he's doing another Universal monster movie. Like everything he does is kind of a riff on something else, but he does it so well that you don't. And that's kind of what I love about him,
Yeah, but I mean, I thought Tom Hiddleston and Jessica Chastain was awesome and like the villainous duo.
Yes,
they really,
and of course you don't realize they're the villains at first.
My mom was kind of watching this with me because she had like some free time with her job because she works at home, so she she wasn't really doing anything, so she was folding laundry and like kind of watching this over my shoulder, and she was really creeped out by like their relationship.
Yeah, it's really creepy, and of course, I don't know. We've had several things I feel like with incest in the past few years because we had Game of Thrones. I feel like incest has come up a lot in pop culture, which is a weird thing to say. And honestly, I didn't see it coming when I first watched the movie. Of course, you watch it again, it's very obvious what's going on with those two. But the first time I didn't quite see it coming, and the end was kind of a surprise to me.
Right.
Because you think that the ghost is the threat the whole time, and that's what you're supposed to think, even though he tells you from the very first scene of the movie that it's not really about the ghost. He does that through her meeting with the publisher or whatever.
Yeah, I will say, I'm probably gonna get hate for this. Didn't like the look of the ghost.
It's not my favorite because it was shot practically, but then they enhanced it with CG, and something about it looks a little fake, I guess. That's also Doug Jones, though, playing the ghost.
Yeah, and I didn't like. I did not like. To be honest with you, I did not like the actual look of the ghost itself. Not probably because dudes like the CGI thing, like you were saying. But yeah, it just looked like a cheap version of like Skeletor. Or like the like the skeletons and like Jason the Artist.
Yeah. And yeah, I get what he's going for, but yeah, it doesn't 100% work for me either. It's not my favorite element of the movie. My favorite element of the movie is the house. The house is incredible.
Oh yeah.
You walk in and like there's leaves falling through the ceiling and things like that.
Yeah, like there's like bugs, I think.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I love the thing with the clay. I thought that was really interesting. It made it look like blood.
Yes.
And that's the other thing about this movie was I had a hard time following what was going on.
It's a little bit labyrinthine, yeah.
Yeah,
no pun intended. He also directed a movie about a real labyrinth.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you have to really focus on it. I don't think they really explained things too well in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it's got a mystery element to it, so that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
You're not supposed to really understand what's going on until closer to the end of the movie. So,
but I mean, one of those movies you have to like watch it over and over again first. Yeah, that's really all I gotta say. I thought the cool thing I liked about the clay was it was referring to kind of like, I guess, like blood, or it's supposed to be like hallucinating the blood, and I like that it was very Sweeney Todd-like.
Yeah, I can see that. It's because it's that sort of Victorian era thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was inspired by Hammer horror. But that's really all I gotta say about Crimson Peak. I don't know if you want to say anything else about it.
I mean, like I said, it's not one of my like top tier Del Toro movies. I mean, but it is interesting. I think it sort of establishes a new level of sort of prestige for him, at least in Hollywood, because he had made like, Pan's Labyrinth, which was an Oscar nominated film and stuff like that. But, Crimson Peak is like him making a classy movie. And that's after that, you start getting stuff like The Shape of Water and Nightmare Alley, both of which were, Best Picture nominated sort of, Christmas season, Oscar prestige kind of movies.
So my quick letterbox review for Crimson Peak. I said it was a beautiful movie from Del Toro, as per usual, with great acting, but ends up being kind of predictable. Because I kind of figured that like
Sure.
to be the bad guy.
Hmm.
So real quick, if you had to rank these movies, where would you rank them? Like all 5 of these movies that we just reviewed.
Okay. Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy 2, probably Hellboy 1,
Okay.
Cronos, then Crimson Peak, I think. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go Hellboy 2. I just have so
Okay.
much on that movie. I think Pan's Labyrinth is a better movie, but my personal ones.
I'm not gonna gripe with you. Hellboy 2 is incredible. So yeah.
Pan's Labyrinth, probably maybe Cronos.
Okay.
I
Cool.
thought that was more interesting. Or
It is.
Yeah, then Hellboy, it was good, but and I think you said you watched it like early on before it became a big deal, like when it first came out, the first Hellboy.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I was just expecting more, so that's maybe why it's lower on my list. And then I'm gonna go Crimson Peak. So real quick, he came out with a couple other movies in the last like 5 years, Shape of Water and Nightmare Alley. What did you think about those movies, real quick?
I love Shape of Water. I think that's a really spectacular movie, and it's a great showcase for Doug Jones as an actor. Even though he doesn't use his human voice in the movie, his physical presence as the amphibious man is just one of the great screen performances. Nightmare Alley, it wasn't for me.
It was different.
It was different, and it's the one movie he has that doesn't really have any actual supernatural elements. It just has people pretending at the supernatural. So it's a different kind of movie, and it wasn't my favorite. Although I will say that ending, that's a killer.
Yeah,
the last scene of the movie, that is a real gut punch, and I like that.
But this has been fun, man. I like talking about Del Toro with you. Thank you for suggesting a Del Toro video, because I got to see some Del Toro movies I haven't seen before. I've never seen before.
Well, that makes the world a better place already. Somebody else has been exposed to the glory of Del Toro.
Yeah, well, and that's what I wanted to do with this channel. Partly is I just wanted to watch a bunch of sci-fi and horror movies I haven't seen before, and give me the opportunity with Del Toro.
Yeah, he's one of the best guys making those types of movies. I can't wait to see what he does next. I can never wait. Like, I'm always excited.
What because he already did 2 comic book movies before with Blade 2 and Hellboy. What other comic book do you want to see him do?
I want to see him do Swamp Thing.
That'll be interesting.
I really want a Guillermo del Toro Swamp Thing.
Oh yeah,
that sounds and like make it like really steeped in like weird lore and mythology, and like make it weird, make it a real Del Toro movie, and make it like with practical effects and stuff. I would love to see that. Yeah,
either Doug Jones or Ron Perlman. I think Ron Perlman would be a good Swamp Thing.
He's too old at this point. I think Doug Jones is not super young anymore, but he could probably do it. I would love to see Doug Jones play Swamp Thing.
Have Perlman do the voice of
let's have them both. Doug Jones does the movement.
Oh my god, that'd be so awesome.
And Ron Perlman does the voice, and then you have the perfect Del Toro movie.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing is, like, I know they're trying to revitalize the Universal monster movies, kind of.
That didn't work very well when they tried before.
Yeah, with this other kind of attempt that they're doing, I'd love to see him do a Universal monster, like whether it's like Frankenstein or Dracula or whatever.
Well, he was in talks to do Frankenstein for a long time, and it just never happened. He was in talks to do Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
At one point, and that didn't happen. He's always got something that he's planning and then it falls through,
Right.
So
He's directing that weird Pinocchio movie coming on Netflix, right? Or he's producing it.
yeah, he had something to do. I think he was just a producer, but yeah, he produces a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
So,
I'm looking forward to that one. That might be kind of interesting to watch.
yeah.
It looks creepy though. I haven't seen the trailer, but I've seen like little clips of it, but it looks really creepy. But anyways, guys, I guess it's time to wrap up this video. Real quick, just a little bit of an update. If you didn't watch my my horror quote quiz that I did with Eric like last week, I'm gonna be taking a break here in May because I've been pumping out a lot of videos, and I just need a break. But on the 25th, hopefully, me and Eric are gonna do a review of George Lucas versus the People. Because that's the day that Star Wars came out, so that'll be kind of fun to do.
That is an interesting movie.
Yeah,
I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I already seen it. I've seen it several times.
Oh, you watched it? Okay.
So, guys, this has been Drew from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond. Over and out. Bye. Thank you for watching the video.